welcome back to the Ashlin Jones Podcast, which, yes, formerly we were the Night We Met podcast, but I'm Ashlin, and this is my podcast. Now, if you didn't listen to the update podcast we uploaded on Apple Podcasts, you can listen to that. It's 12 minutes, super short, kind of just talking about the change and why. And this episode, I just recorded a full episode and my mic wasn't on. So we're here again and I'm exhausted from talking. I like to talk. That's why I'm doing a podcast, but I've almost hit my limit. So welcome. I have some friends here I want to bring in. I talked about these people on social media. Maybe you can, can you see them in frame? Maybe a little bit. Let's see, let's bring them in here. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see what I'm doing. Let's bring them in. Okay, yeah, you can see them. Oh my gosh, they're so cute. Look. I love that. Okay, this might actually work. Because I was going to put a shelf up here where that photo is and like put them on the shelf. You don't even know what I'm talking about yet. But I kind of like this. Maybe I'll leave it like this. Okay. They're my inside out friends. We have joy. We have sadness. Love her. Lots of experience with sadness. We have disgust. There she is. Disgusted that I'm even showing her. We have anger. I think he's so cute. He's just like this little angry guy, and he has pants and a tie. And then we have fear, which is different than anxiety. This is him. And then we have Bing Bong, the imaginary friend. And these make me so happy. They make me feel like a kid, and they just remind me to not be afraid of my emotions, which honestly, I could have used Inside Out like 20 years ago, but it's fine. So, welcome to the new space. I'm in the corner now. Same chair, same space, just a little different, a little more me. I do want to paint the wall, but I won't for a little while because that's like a whole ordeal. Anyway, welcome. I cannot believe I'm recording this again. I said so many good things like 10 minutes ago. Oh well. This is what happens. I have to accept it. I have to have radical acceptance over the fact that errors go wrong or errors occur. Whatever. It's recording. I'm like double, triple checking if you're watching. It's recording. I'm sounding. Record, red dot, green dot. We're good. In the last little update episode, was talking about how terrified I was to do this by myself and why I think that it's really hard for me to hold something creatively on my own, like why I'm so afraid of that and think that I can't do it. And that's it connects. There's a lot of things that go with that. One, kind of the obvious, is being a heart transplant patient, a heart disease patient, whatever, and an autoimmune conditioned person, I guess that's maybe how you say it. I have 3 things not working on my side when it comes to wanting to do something that takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of time, takes a lot of energy, just all the things that you need for normal everyday life. And then on top of that, adding in something that's amazing, but also just a lot. It's a lot to do something like this. And when have all of these few things stacked up against you to be like, hey, we actually need energy because we're going to flare up if you do this too much, or we're going to, whatever it is, give you a migraine with a side effect of one of your medications. Like, you just don't know And I know a lot of people can relate to this in the sense of like, you don't know what your body's going to do tomorrow, and you don't know what it's going to do a month from now. So committing to a creative endeavor for a sustainable, like long period of time is terrifying. And because I have had been so sick for so long, everything since I graduated high school, everything that I have tried creatively, except for one thing, everything but one thing, I have started and I have not finished, or I've not seen it through to what it could be. And a big part of that is my health, was my health. Need to be better about that. It was my health, a big part. It would just be too much, and I needed to step back, walk away. I wanted to be the person that was strong enough and like had enough whatever it was to keep sharing through being like sick and not feeling good, but that was not me. That was not going to be my story. So I've had this ebb and flow of like basically just a little disappearing act, if you will, back and forth. And if y'all have been following me, you know what I'm talking about. Of the many Instagrams I've started and restarted, my personal one, just totally deleting it and going like, off the grid for a hot second there. And the only thing that stuck that I did finish and see through was writing a book of poetry. I don't have it up on Amazon anymore, but that was something I'm so proud of. And I think back to that, I'm like, I want that feeling again. Like, I want it, and I'm terrified I'm not going to be able to do it because this, and this. And so this podcast, me doing this by myself, is my moment to kind of take back what sickness has taken from me for so long, and also doing it with giving myself grace, because I might not be able to record on the days I want to record, or if an episode just can't come out that week because I didn't feel good, or I didn't, whatever it is, like giving myself the grace for it, and also still continuing to do it and pursue it, because I think this is a very important moment in my life, and I want to share it with you guys, because what's the point? Like, how do people not know about Jesus and what he has done and how good he is despite how hard life is? Like, if I don't share that, people won't know, and I just think it's silly to keep it to myself. So we're working against that, but we're also working with Jesus, and like he gets the final say. And that's my favorite part, is like, it doesn't matter. I just keep like thinking and feeling like, bring me all that you have and I'll bring the rest. Because it's very easy in this space, on social media in general, to compare and to look at other people, whether they believe in Jesus and they're Christians, or it's in the like secular space and whatever. It's very tempting to look at that and say, oh, but they're look at their output. Look how great that's going for them, and they're doing it at this rate, and that's wonderful. But it's not for me. That's not at the pace at which I go. And already I hope you can like feel and hear a difference in the podcast with me versus like Josiah and I, is I wanted to slow things down. I had such an amazing therapy session last week that just helped me realize like my voice matters, and I need to stop hiding, and I can be confident like in myself and in my story, and I don't have to blend in to what society is saying like I have to do, and I don't have to hide behind people and things, and my voice is enough and I can do it. This is so scary for me to not to say that like you don't need support, because you do. Like having people support you in the creative process is so important. I think you'll just crumble if you don't have support. And I think part of that was when I wrote the book. I wrote the book and then I didn't have any other people around me creatively helping kind of push that forward and speak into things, you know? So then I ended up just deleting my social media. So it's like that got so overwhelming, and now I'm in this space of like, okay, I want to share this. This is really important to me. And I'm terrified. And I want to do things creatively with my husband. I want to work together. And what does that look like? And we're figuring that out. It's like playing with different things, testing out things, seeing how it feels. And so this is my space now. We put this chair in the corner, and it feels so cozy. And I'm just so excited to slow it down. And it's my hope that like when you're listening, you feel peace and you feel inspired, obviously, and you want to keep listening, and not because it's like, oh, what I have decided to do and my life is so important, and oh, I have such a cool testimony and life has been so hard for me and that's amazing. None of that. I just hope you listen to this and you can hear and see yourself in some areas where it becomes like healing for you. And I like this setup if you're watching on YouTube, because it's like a one-on-one kind of thing, you know? And I'm so much better at one-on-one than in like groups or whatever. I feel seen, and I want you to feel that way too. So welcome to the Ashlin Jones Podcast. We left off at my heart transplant. So I guess that's where I'm going to like go from here. I'm gonna adjust myself here. Hold on. There we go. Got to get the hair, you know. The hair matters. Okay. The day we got the call, I know we talked about this from like both of our point of views, but I just want to go back to like that day. Like I had said, I was in so much pain that day. But it wasn't anything different than like, put this down here. It's going to look silly, the microphone. I was just looking at it. It wasn't any different than any other like painful day. It was like my pain scale. I don't know if I have a very high pain tolerance. And I also, like I've said, I didn't know when too much was too much. It was always so difficult. It's just so difficult to tell when you're sick like that. Like, should I say something? Is this like painful enough to go to the ER? Because the day before we got the call, we went up to Breckenridge and we saw the fall colors because it was late September in Colorado and it's beautiful. And I was not well. Like, it was after the fact. Like, going up there, I was just kind of like, I better enjoy this. Like, I don't know when the call is coming. I don't know what's going to happen. We brought Cash with us, our dog, not like literal money. And he was just a pup. And we took photos and I was just so short of breath and could only like drive in the car and then get out and just like walk a couple feet. And I had this feeling that my heart was going to like happen relatively soon after we got married. And I say that because, sorry, I need a drink. I just talked for like 45 minutes before this. So I am full of faith. You got to know that about me. Like, I have the gift of faith. I just can't help myself when it comes to that. And especially in that time, like when you're dying, I couldn't turn it off. It was just like my faith and my dreams, they just got bigger as I got sicker, which is just crazy to think about. But I remember at my bridal shower, my little niece came up to me. And if you listen to the episode 4, I think I said that it's very similar, like relating to getting a heart to like having a baby, in the way that you're waiting on this new life. You don't know when it's going to happen. You have to have a hospital bag like packed, got to get ready to go. And then your entire life changes after. Like there's no going back. There's before and after. And I feel like that's very similar to children. We don't have any, but I feel like that would be the same-ish. And my little niece came up to me and she gave me a flower. She was like 4 at the time, maybe 5. And she goes, "You're going to have a baby, but it's not going to be until after the wedding. So here's a flower." And she just gave, and the minute she said that, immediately I was just like, it's happening like really soon after we get married. Like there's no way, because we were in that space of, are we going to get married before I had my heart transplant or after? And I was kind of going back and forth because my bridal shower was about a month before. And so I was like, it could literally happen in the next 30 days. But then when my little niece said that, I was just like, I knew God was speaking through her, even if she didn't realize it. And I was overcome with so much peace. So much peace, and just like, okay, like I was so sick and in so much pain, and I had so much peace. It just didn't make sense to me. And at the time, like, I obviously wasn't like enjoying not feeling good, but I was savoring this season for what it was, because I knew it was going to change. And when it did change, I knew it was going to be really difficult, just in a different way. And so her saying that, I was like, okay, that's going to happen really soon. And then we went to the mountains the day before we got the call, obviously not knowing we were going to get the call then. And that had just wiped me out. So we came back, and Josiah had left for the day to go hiking, or for the morning, afternoon. And I was just laying in bed, just in so much pain. And at that point, it was so hard, because you're like begging God, like, for it to happen. But the reality of what's happening, and we talked about this before, is like someone is passing away. Like you're not praying for someone to pass away, but on like a just, I don't know, practical level, that is what has to happen in order for me to get what I'm praying for. And everyone has their time, and that's really, really hard to accept and like think about. And so when I sat there all day, it was on a Sunday, I was just like, please let it happen. Like you said after we got married, and this was 5 weeks about after, I was like, you said it. And it was going to happen really soon, like you said. And I just had this faith to believe and to keep holding on, because like in my head, I was like, there's no way this story goes, oh, they have this tumultuous beginning and then they get married and then she dies. But I also was like, well, if that's God's story, then that's God's story that he wants to tell for whatever reason. But there was a bigger part of me that was like, no, that can't be. That's not going to happen. Like, just trying to hope for the best, because it's really hard in that space. It's really hard. And know, okay, and be okay if it didn't happen, and be okay if you did wait for a really long time and nothing happened and you got too sick. But I just always had this like unwavering belief that there was more that God wanted for me on this side. There was more story for me to tell. Like, the story didn't end there. And now I'm here, which is crazy talking about it 4 years later, because it didn't end. And it, like, it's so easy for people to say everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. So just know everything happens for a reason. Like, it's just so easy. And I think sometimes life just sucks and really crappy things happen and your heart just breaks open, and some things it's your fault, and other times it's not. Other times it's just life. And when we were laying in bed, like 4 p.m, and we told the story about the power going out. You'll have to listen to episode 4 for that, like, full story. It just was like a relief. It was a relief at first, and then it was like, oh no, like, this is actually happening. And I think for me, people, like, I would think about the actual surgery, which probably wasn't a great idea. I did not Google anything. Do not Google anything if you are waiting for a organ. Just don't. Or if you're like about to have a baby. I've never had a baby, but I would imagine not Googling that process. Because if I thought about it too much, it scared me so much. So I just wouldn't allow my mind to go there. Like, they're going to take a saw into my... okay, we're done. We're going to stop right there, and we're not going to think anything further, because you're not even going to be awake, and it's going to be fine. So they call, and, like, we just sit there, like, in silence for a minute, and we have to wait for the nurse to call. We had about 2 hours until she called us. I had a bag packed. Looking back, it's so funny to, like, think about what was actually in that bag and what I actually used versus didn't. Pajamas. Key. I had really cute slippers. Key. I did not read. I had, like, coloring books and books to read. Did not do any of that. It's a pretty stressful time. So, you know, coloring isn't really on your agenda. But I remember being like, okay, I gotta call my parents. So I called my parents. I was like, they were waiting for me to call them. It was just a whole surreal experience. And they had been through this already with my brother. And so it's different. My brother is the oldest of all of us. And he was married, the same as me. He was married. But they lived, like, in Houston. My parents lived in Corpus Christi. It was just different in a way, but my parents went right to Houston when they got the call. And so my parents met us at the hospital, the same thing. And to have 2 of your kids have a heart transplant, like, I just can't, I don't know. It's wild to me, everything that they've been through. And so, and then having to say, like, bye to them outside of the hospital, that was, like, the hardest thing. Because they had been with me through every episode, every surgery, every ablation, every, like, scary thing of, you might die here. Oh, no, you're good. You might die here. You're good. They had been with me. And they didn't even get to go in the hospital with me in that, because it was COVID. And only Josiah could, one person. And that was so hard. I remember, like, I feel like I was being strong for them, because they were a mess. And I wasn't afraid of like the surgery. I was just so sad that like they couldn't be with me in those moments of like what we were waiting for so long. And I remember like walking from the car, saying goodbye to them, and then walking into the hospital and like looking back. And yeah, a part of me was like, oh, this might be the last time I see them. But it really wasn't that. It was just, I want them to be there. And I think that's what's so important in life that people don't realize. And people, sometimes you're too like prideful to admit it, but like we need people, especially the people that we go through like really hard things with. So yeah, it was a day full of so many emotions. And you get in there, and then the surgeon comes and talks to me, and then they put in like 4 IVs, one, like just really painful stuff, and take so much blood. And just Josiah and I sitting there for like 12 hours before it actually happened. And like Josiah said, he like went home and slept, and I still can't believe that it happened sometimes. It's like this crazy thing that happened, and when it's happening, you don't realize like what's going on. It's just, no, you prayed for this, you need this. And even because the day before we were up in the mountains, I was like, do I even need a heart transplant? Of course I did. But it was just this, like, I wanted to latch onto something that would be like, well, maybe I don't. Like, maybe I'll be fine for a little bit longer. But I knew that I wouldn't. And my doctor said that I wouldn't. So it was very clear. It was just, oh my gosh, everything is about to change. And I don't have a choice here. It's going to change, and I don't have a choice. So then it was about learning how to adapt to that change and heal through that change. And like the next 4 years, just going through everything that I did. I wouldn't have gone through it, obviously, without having a heart transplant. But not just physical, clearly, but the mental toll that it took and the healing that had to be done. That, yeah, had a lot to do with medical trauma, but also had a lot to do with like childhood and relationships and things that I had struggled with for so long. A lot of it tied to medical stuff, but a lot of it just tied to like hurts from my past and growing up and different belief systems, and all of that became unearthed because I got a heart transplant. And I'm so thankful, and that's why I will like die on the hill of suffering is a gift. Like, if you don't suffer, I feel really bad for you. Like, go do something and suffer. Like, obviously I did not have a choice. And you could say like, oh, I would do it all over again, or I'd choose the same thing. Like, I don't really know the answer to that. If I would, it'd be like, if I could choose my suffering, would I, like, wouldn't, it's been a lot. And that day, while it was what we prayed for, it was also about to change my entire world and my entire future. Yes, for the better. And also it was just going to be really difficult because it changes you, trauma like that. Especially like, it sounds wild, but like someone taking your organ that you were born with, your heart of all things, taking it out of you. And putting in someone else's. Like, I remember a few days after all the hallucinations stopped and all that stuff, that my brain fog. My Hashimoto's is giving me some problems at the moment. I just literally lost my train of thought. But and I'm really not trying to like cry on this. I don't want people to think like, oh, this girl just cries on her podcast the whole time. I hope you don't think that. This is just so emotional for me to talk about. But in like a really good way. But this is me, and I am learning to be myself more and more every day, and not care, and just be true to me, because I've learned that when I'm true to myself, I feel the most peace. And one of those things is what I wear, if I wear makeup or don't wear makeup, if I do my hair, if all these things that matter when you're on a podcast and on camera. It's like I'm trying more and more to be myself, and being open and vulnerable and allowing myself to feel what I'm feeling and share it as I'm feeling it is me. So if that makes you uncomfortable, or you're just like, this is annoying, just don't listen. You actually have a choice, and you can actually not listen. You can unsubscribe. Fine by me, because I know there will be people. That's what I keep reminding myself of, that actually will feel this and hear this, and it'll make a difference. So, anyway, I knew. Oh, that's what I was going to say. See, okay, it comes back. It does. I literally sound like I'm in like menopause and I'm like losing my mind, but I'm not actually. So the craziest like surreal moment was a few days after transplant, them allowing me to listen to my new heart, because it's like, yes, I hated that my heart I was born with was taken from me, even though it was killing me. Like, that says something. Like, even though something's killing you, you're so attached to it because it's you and it's part of you and it's what you've like lived with, and you've been through some stuff together, and it's gotten you so far, but it's not working for you anymore. So it has to be taken. Like, if you want to survive, it has to go. And I think there's a metaphor in there somewhere. Like, it's applicable to a lot more than just your actual heart, obviously. And so it had to go. And then I had a choice. It's like I had to find beauty in the new thing that was in my chest, in a way that like the nurses created that for me, like started to create that, because it's a process, was allowing me to listen to my heart for the first time, to my new heart and what it sounded like. And my old heart was never steady. It was always like all over the place, beating crazy. And so when they let me listen to it, because I could see it on the machine, like, and my family, everyone was like, this is wild. We've never seen it like this. When the nurses put it in my ear, the stethoscope, whatever that's called. Don't at me. Big words are hard sometimes. The I'm gonna quit trying now. You know what I'm talking about? The thing that goes in your ears and it has the little thing, and then they put it and they say, breathe. That thing. Put it on me. And it was so steady. It felt so foreign. I was like, what? This is beautiful, but this is also crazy. Like, there's no way that's my heart. There's no way that that's happening. I'm so used to something else right now. And that, I think I can pinpoint to the moment when I needed to and would need to learn how to see the beauty in all of it. Because yes, it saved my life, but on the other hand, so many things were about to unfold, and so many struggles were about to like surface in myself and in our marriage. And I was just like, okay, I can ground myself in this moment. This is beautiful. And from there, I just took it one day at a time. Not even one day, 1 hour at a time at that point. Like, in the hospital, I was in the hospital for 12 days. Which, yes, that is actually very quick. You're not like, oh my gosh, like that's real quick. That's too quick for me. Because I ended up going back to the hospital about 5 days later in the emergency room. So it was hour by hour, sometimes minute by minute, because it got to the point where enough fluid was not draining quick enough and out. Because I had 2 drains in my stomach. Sorry if you can't, no pun intended, stomach this, but 2 drains that were not doing enough. So they had to add a 3rd one. And these people just straight up did it in my room. They didn't take me anywhere. They didn't give me sedation. I think they gave me like an oxy pill. It was so painful. They did it on my side, like on like my upper ribs and my back kind of. Just straight up inserting a tube, and they happened to put the drain. They didn't mean to, obviously. It's kind of where it ends up sitting, and it ended up falling right on a nerve, and they couldn't take it out. This was about like 6 days after transplant, something like that. But they needed the fluid to come off. So that was, I always say, if they didn't have to put that drain in, or if they could have like taken it out and done it again under sedation, whatever, it was like a breeze, the heart transplant, like the whole surgery process, in terms of like, because you're on so much medication for pain that you don't really feel a lot. It's when you start coming off of it at home that is like painful. So that process in the hospital was so traumatizing, because I couldn't lay down. I couldn't lay on my side, either side. I couldn't sleep. I had to raise the hospital chair, like almost forward to the point, like into a straight up chair, bending over. And I would just sit there and just cry. And like my family would come in, like 2 people could come in at a time. And they would try to distract me. It was so painful. And it's so easy to forget that. It's like in the Bible, or it's like where he talks about, I think it's in the New Testament, when like the woman gives birth, she forgets the pain once the baby like comes, and it's so beautiful, and like you'll forget. And it's like, yeah, well, that's really like easy to say when you're not in the position of the pain. But then when it's over, right now, sitting here, I can say that. It's like, it's nothing compared to, the joy that's going to come from this, but it's going to be really painful. And I can vividly remember, but also I feel really far removed from it, which I think is a good thing. That I'm not, because I've done a lot of work on my mental health, and so proud of myself. And I can talk about these things now. And it's wild to look back those days in the hospital, and then finally going home. I remember going home and like not feeling ready to go home at all. I was so sick from the medication. It's basically poison, so your organ doesn't reject. I'd already had tummy issues because I'm a girl, and it was really, really difficult. And I was going home, mind you, to a husband who I'd been married to for 5 weeks. And he's taking me home like I am like this baby, basically. Like, I have to learn to eat again. I have to learn to walk again. I got to figure out my sleep schedule. Like, I just felt very surreal. Yes, it's what I prayed for, and I'm so thankful. And also, it was really hard. It was really hard, and it's made me who I am. And Jesus was not with me the entire time, and I know that's the way that I got through, like, was able to continue, especially in those first couple weeks. Because those are the roughest, the hardest. Like, I remember my birthday was about like 2 or 3 months after my transplant, and just not being happy which is wild because you're like, oh, you made it, you know, like you got the transplant, you made it to your birthday, like here's to another year. And I was just like, I am miserable. I'm in so much pain. Does this ever get better? It has to get better, you know, like, and I know that it will, but I don't know how much. I don't know what to expect because everyone is different. And at that point, it was just like one day, one appointment at a time, until I could actually start moving and doing things and getting into cardiac rehab. And that was like a 3-month wait process from surgery. So it was just this 3-month period of Josiah taking care of me as if I'm a child. I need a caretaker. I need someone there. I'm so sick. I can't eat. I'm going back and forth to the hospital every week, every other week. And this is not what the life I imagined that it would look like after. But it was the plan. It was going to happen. And it was, looking back on it, I'm like, okay, I can see. But it's so easy to say that because when you're in it, I guess I just wish I would have been more patient with myself in those first couple months and given myself more grace, because I was like, I got a new heart. This sucks. I want to feel better. So I'm going to make all these goals and do all these things and share this on social media. And this is going to be amazing. I'm going to stick with everything that I do and nothing is going to deter me. And yet everything did. Everything just like changed. Like my confidence spiraled. My mental health went downhill. It was slow and gradual. And then, but yeah, there's just so much that you don't know. And if anything, I know it's worth sticking around to see what does happen on the other side and fighting through that initial, like, holy crap, I got a transplant and this is my life. Like, and I know some people don't have this kind of experience, but for the ones who do, this is for you, because I know, and I know how much it hurts to not have the life that like you thought it would be. And I know how it feels to feel like incompetent and like you can't do anything for yourself. It's exhausting. But I think people like you and me who go through really hard things, whether it's a transplant or anything else, like people who have just been through some crap and you're still here and you're listening to this, it's like there's something in us that maybe isn't in other people. And I choose to believe that. I don't know. By no means am I saying, oh, we're better than everyone else. That's not what I mean. I just mean that there's something I think that God sees in us that he can use to bring people to him because we're willing to fight. And not all of us are willing to speak up, but we are willing to be the light in our lives in the capacity that we have through the really, really dark times that we have been gifted to walk through. And it's taken me a very long time to say that sentence and mean it. But it is a gift that I've been able to walk through what I've walked through. Because I know he wants to use it. Because he loves me and he loves you. And when it gets so dark and so difficult, there was not a moment that he wasn't there. I can trace back everything and I can go to each moment that I can remember of suffering after transplant and know that he was in the room. Even if I didn't feel it or believe it at the time, never stopped believing in him, obviously, but it's very difficult when you're in so much pain and you're praying for him to take it away and he doesn't. That's so difficult. and your partner watching you and not able to do anything. It's like he was there, and for some reason he allowed it. Sometimes life just sucks and crappy things happen. But because the Holy Spirit lives inside of you, you have what it takes to get through it. I do believe that. And that's what I believe that I have. I have a unwavering amount of strength because it comes from my weakness, and then God meets me there and pulls me through. So, this podcast, this feels so good, so much better. I feel like, not to say that the night we met wasn't great, because it got me started. It got me here. And Josiah and I's story is very important, and my voice and my heart story is so precious to me and so important that I just want to give it the space that it deserves. And this just felt so good. Wow. This episode is so different than the first one I recorded, and it's so much better. And I was so frustrated in the beginning. So if I was frazzled in the beginning, I'm so sorry. Will not be in the future. Can't make too many promises, but this feels amazing. We have all of our feelings here. We're not going to shy away from them. And I will see you next week. Okay. I love you. Bye. But you know what? I'm going to change it. I'm going to change that little sign off. Okay. I've been saying this on Instagram a lot, so I'm going to say that here. Okay. Bye. Love you. But Jesus does more. That sounds so much better. I love that. Okay. I'll see you next week.